So it's all being, set up, and then it finally falls apart, and it's just done in such a masterful way, the way Picasso painted, or Michelangelo, it's just a different medium. But yeah, no, very good summary. That's basically sums up, so good,
Boo.
so good.
Well, what could be better than 2 hour movie? A 2 hour and 15 minute movie. Jeez Louise, it's so slow. Wait, so hold on.
Wait, so
So he never actually really did it. He was just daydreaming all that.
he's got concepts of a plan. Okay, he's got concepts.
Stupid ass.
That's why it's so good, man. That's why it's so good. You can't rely on him as being a reliable narrator. It's so good. Oh,
Okay.
all right.
We just watched Parasite 2019. Let's talk about it.
Where to even start, man?
Where do you start? The fact that it's just the worst film I think released that got Oscar nominated and won Oscars.
Damn
That's where we
straight.
start.
Damn
That's
straight.
it was terrible. Just as bad as I remember watching it the first time.
So we can start off by saying, I think right off the bat, me and you have completely differing opinions on this. I think this movie is like, one of the best movies I've seen. Easily, for me, easily 10 out of 10.
Oh my gosh.
10.
What?
And I'm going to break it down for you, like why it's so good.
No.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, so, it's top of the top. But obviously,
so are we giving our scores now?
No.
You just did it. You just gave it 10 out of 10.
All right,
That's
all
a
right.
perfect score.
All right, that's my score, 10 out of 10. You already know it right from the start, and I'm going to defend that score.
Well, you're going to hear my score at the end of our analysis and review, because this is Unqualified Movie Reviews, brought to you by two brothers who are very unqualified to review movies, and we just talk shit. So here we go. So Parasite, it's a 2019 South Korean movie. It's a dark comedy, they describe it. A dark comedy, thriller. It's directed by Bong Joon-ho, and the film is following the Kim family, very poor, impoverished family. It follows the daughter, the son, mom, and dad, and they're just scheming to basically climb up that ladder, to get more wealth, to get more prestige, power. They're just doing anything and everything they can and taking advantage of anybody in any situation to climb up higher into the class ladder. They lie about who they are. They pose as professional this, professional that, driver, teacher, nanny, and then they shortly take over. They meet the Park family. Is that correct? The Park family.
The Parks.
Okay,
yeah.
The Park family.
Mm-hmm.
And so they start enacting that plan that they have, planned and hatched. They start enacting it with the Park family, and one by one, they start replacing the different jobs that the Parks have hired out. The cook, the housekeeper, that's replaced by mom, and then dad is the driver. The son is a tutor, an English tutor, and the daughter is, I want to say what?
Art therapist.
Art therapist? Oh, okay. Doesn't make sense, but it spirals into chaos after the threads start, revealing. It transforms into like a suspense, and then it gets violent towards the end. Just
Right.
super, super violent. And that's kind of the climax at the birthday party that they have. So if you have anything to add to that summary, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, great summary. Throughout the whole movie, it builds up to like this whole climax, and the final third just kind of like plays out perfectly, because like the first 80% of the movie just kind of sets it up. Not even 80%, it's like 50, 60%. So it's all being, set up, and then it finally falls apart, and it's just done in such a masterful way, the way Picasso painted, or Michelangelo, it's just a different medium. But yeah, no, very good summary. That's basically sums up, the entire movie. Um, yeah, so let's get into it.
Do you feel like music played a big role in this beginning, or it was kind of more like the visuals and the hints, like the subtle hints that are
No,
playing?
yeah, yeah. I mean, like, at the very beginning, like music definitely plays a role. When I watch a movie, I'm listening to what's being played, and I'm watching what the director is showing us. And so these first few shots, I don't know if you remember, but they're very slow, like long shots of, like, the Kim's house, and
Yeah.
just kind of showcasing, like, just how poor they are. They're living in poverty in a semi basement, um so right off the bat, you're starting to get exactly, who this family is, how they live, they're kind of, um their place on the social ladder,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the director uses a lot of the stairs to go, as a visual to that social ladder, right? And
Yeah,
so the Kims live literally like in the flood zone. And so they live even below like most people. And so he's using that, the director's using that to kind of show that, hey, man, they're the poorest of the poor. Like they are down there
right,
in the
right.
slums.
Yeah,
And so I like that he uses that. I like that he does like dividing and uh separation. In his scenes, you'll see like a window that kind of separates the Kims from the Parks, and you have that dichotomy there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. The way he uses, like, the framing, he frames his shots very well and very intentionally, and also uses music along with color. I don't know if you caught on, but like a lot of, like, the scenes with the Parks, the very well off family, their color when they're in the scenes is very, like, bright, very happy.
mm, I didn't
But the
notice that.
Kims, yeah, if you rewatch it, it will kind of make more sense. The Kims is kind of seen a little bit more
Grimy,
grittier,
yeah,
grimier.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Also, like a big thing in this movie was the senses and that smell. Like it is really hammered by the director, and how it kind of crescendos over time, but you'll see like Mr. Park, the rich husband, that's his main sense is smell. And so and the son too, right? The little kid. He
right.
smells that they smell the same, the
Yeah, the
family members. And
song.
so
Yeah, the song. Oh, oh, they smell the same, and so does
yeah.
Evan and Jessica. You know,
Yeah.
very,
And
just
you don't get that in a lot of movies uh where they kind of bring in that next sense of like, oh, smell is also something, even though you can't communicate it through the screen, something that the characters can actually be so disgusted by or really like.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's one of the good things about, Bong Joon-ho, is that he, as a director, kind of shows us, the difference. He doesn't tell us, he's not telling you specifically, he's not laying it out for you where it's super obvious. He kind of
Yeah.
shows you, and lets you come to your own conclusions and discoveries about the movie, and what you can gain from it.
Yeah, no. When I first heard of Parasite, I thought it was going to be like a horror movie. I thought it was going to be like some kind of, monster that comes and attacks. It's part of the reason I wore this shirt. Brought to you by Roosevelt's. This is the Stranger Things. And you have
Nice.
like the parasites and stuff like that. And so my original thought was, hey, this movie's going to be like about a monster or something hiding in the basement, or something's going to attack and infect people or whatever. But it wasn't. It was literally talking about the people being compared to parasitic. And, you know, the director, he really communicates that really well.
So you agree he does a very good job.
He does. I mean, he showcases it really well, right? He
Yeah.
showcases that the behaviors of the Kim family are so parasitic. And one of my favorite scenes was also when the Park family, the rich family, they leave for the camping trip, but it gets ruined by the rain. They come back and they say they're 8 minutes away. They scatter, right? They scatter like roaches and or like rats or mice. They just start scattering the Kim family that's at their house, and
Yeah.
they have to hide. They have to stay in the dark. They have to not be seen, and that's such a good imagery and such good communication. I just wish the movie wasn't 2 hours and 15 minutes, because I think he could have told that story in a much more concise time.
I'm not going to disagree with you. The movie's long, but he uses the time that he shoots very well, and no scene I think is really wasted. Like, you're not going to look at a scene and be like, I think you can kind of cut that out. And I think every scene kind of adds to the whole experience, which is kind of why it's so long. Every scene is very deliberate. There's no scene left in there that really doesn't add to the movie in some way, which is, I think, is really special. Yeah, the movie is long, but everything starts adding up, to this, it's kind of like a pyramid to like the very top, which is, for me, was the rain scene. The rain scene was like
Really?
the very pivotal moment. It was kind of like the cataclysmic event, which kind of changes everything, and everything just kind of starts crashing down.
Yeah.
For
Like
both.
that thunder, when that thunder hit and the Kims were drinking when they're not supposed
Yeah.
to be.
So
Okay.
yeah, for me, that scene kind of shifted the whole mood of the film.
Yeah.
So like everything, you're kind of like rooting for like the Kims. You're like, you kind of seeing, like they live in squalor, and they're fighting, they're rough and tough, and they're
I
fighting
am
for
the
like every
opposite.
inch.
I am the opposite of
Really?
what of that. Yeah, absolutely. I am in the frame of like I'm rooting for the Parks, because I know that, like, from the way I see it, is the Parks, the dad just worked his butt off for whatever company and corporate company, and he worked the ladder and he
That
got to
we
where
can
he
see.
is.
That we can see.
Yeah, that we can see, right? And so to me, like, the Kims are like, it's not bad being poor, right? I'm not saying that, and it's not a bad thing to strive for greater things, but it is bad to take advantage of people, and it's bad
Right.
to
Right.
lie and get there to
Yeah.
get to where you want to be. So I was not rooting for them at all
Right. Right.
in
Right.
any sense.
So you're kind of seeing, like, how the Kims are taking advantage of every situation, whether it's the pizza
Hmm.
company, or
Pizza boxes.
yeah, exactly, or the parks, and kind of taking advantage of that. And you're seeing this family kind of, they're really striving and yearning for a place in the world. And
Yeah.
the scene with like the rain and, like, the thunder striking, that kind of changes everything. You kind of seeing like raw, uglier side of them,
Yeah.
where they're just very greedy, and they're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
grateful for what they have. And so I think that is like the very top where they start to kind of come down, and you're like, you're
Yeah.
kind of hoping for, like, that resolution at the very end of where they come crashing down, and you kind of see everything. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, they are poor, and they do take advantage of, like, the people that they're around, and you
Yeah.
definitely see that during throughout the movie. Yeah.
Do you notice that in the beginning, when they were folding those pizza boxes, they had the fumigation company come out, and all the family members were coughing except for the dad? I don't know if you
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure why he was the only one that was coughing, but yeah,
Yeah, I
kind
think
of interesting.
the dad is really interesting because he knows his place in the world, and he accepts it. And that scene kind of showcases like he knows he's at the very bottom, and he's not really striving to pretend or think that he's anything else.
Yeah.
Uh,
Whereas the son has hope, right?
yes, right.
Yeah, the son still has that hope, but it's kind of dead in that dad. He's like, this is my
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
This
and
is what I have to do.
later on in at the very end of the movie, you kind of see like that son and the dad kind of talking, in the I think like the gym after the flood, right? And the son is going on about like his plans, and his dad was like, the best plan that doesn't fail is the plan that you never have. That just kind of showcases his kind of hopelessness, where he's at, and what he thinks of like, you know,
Don't
that
get your hopes up.
that
You
or
won't let,
that
yeah.
grind. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also another funny part right there at the very beginning is when they're folding the pizza boxes, and the
Yeah.
lady comes and picks up, the pizza boxes. She's like, well,
Fourth
every
box.
fourth box is messed up. And,
Yeah.
they all kind of like look at the dad, and the dad's like,
Oh, so it was his.
yeah, right.
Oh, okay.
Cause he's like,
I didn't connect that. I didn't
yeah,
connect
he's like, pay attention, this is how you fold the boxes. And he starts folding them like really fast,
that.
kind of like stacking them and like folding them. So
So he was fucking up.
he was fucking it up and rushing it, which I thought was like, yeah, pretty funny. I feel like he gets the blame for
Yeah.
a lot of the issues. But
Nice. Well, let's go back to that cinematography of the film, because I do think Bong Joon-ho really nails a lot of those scenes. The lines are really great. Uh, Again, the separation is fantastic. Does he use that style in Snowpiercer, his other movie?
yeah, he definitely does.
Uh,
I think that's his defining future as a director is he's really good at showing us, not telling us. We're not a dumb audience. He can show us a picture, and we can decipher what it is, see what he's trying to tell us, and translate the movie. Even though like the movie is in a completely different language, we still understand what he's showing us.
mhm.
And Snowpiercer for sure. I think another great movie.
Oh
Another
yeah,
great
it was
watch.
fantastic. I love that movie, so I don't have a problem with the director, his style. It's just I love that story.
Yeah, the medium he uses for this movie is a lot different, kind of narrative, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel like his strong suit as a director is his ability to convey his ideas, right? At the end of the day,
Hmm.
that's what a director does, is convey their ideas. And he does a very, very good job. He just uses a lot of like these symbolisms, right, in his movies, and stairs is one of those things that he really kind of you see it throughout the movie, but you don't really like pay attention to it. But
Not on the first
every
time. I
not on the
didn't pay
first time.
attention on the first time, but on the second one, I did.
Yeah. So like
And
every
yeah,
time that the Kims, like the son, the tutor, the math tutor, or the English tutor, he comes into like the house, you always see him walking up these steps, right? And he's walking up, this social ladder, and
uh-huh.
up to like the parks level. And so he does that for each member of the family. They always walking up the steps to to the level up to this affluent kind of house and family. Whenever they're coming back to like their usual place, they're always walking down. And I think that's a very efficient way to kind of showcase that. And especially
Yeah.
the scene of that flood when it's raining, that is the
That's the
very
one that
strong
reminds me. Yeah.
imagery, right? Because the
Because
parks.
he could have cut out a lot of them traveling back to their house from the Parks house. He could have just cut it all out and just showed the Kim's house. Oh, they leave the parks and then here's the Kim's house, it's flooding. But he didn't do that. He spent time to show that they're going traveling, and then once they get to their neighborhood, they're even going down more steps and more steps and
Yeah,
more
yeah,
steps,
even
and the
further.
water's flooding. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And even when they're in their neighborhood, they have to go even further down the steps to their
Yeah.
semi basement, which is at the very, very bottom.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things that makes him such a special director, and also the basement scenes, they're in this house, this very, very, wealthy house of this architect, this famous architect, right? And whenever they're going to like visit this family that's, just like they are, they're always going down the steps too, they're going
Yeah.
down to meet them at, their
Yeah.
equal, and that's,
Yeah.
you don't really pick up on it unless you're paying attention to it.
I like when they were, I don't know who said it. If I think it was the dad said about Jessica, the daughter, he said she can be a con artist. She could be a really good con artist. It may have been the mom that said it, but I was like, I laughed at that moment because I'm like, dude, she is a con artist.
Right.
They're all con artists. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Idiots. But
Was
I
that
have
like
no
the
respect.
comedy, the funniest scene for you? You think you just kind of like
I
laughed
don't
out
know what
loud?
the
You're just
funniest scene. No, I honestly I didn't laugh that much, man. This movie was just like the whole time watching the movie, I was just like,
oh,
come on.
man,
I know.
missed out.
And which is kind of interesting because I was drawing a lot of parallels to Squid Games. And Squid Games is another South Korean series. It's another production that kind of tackles that social class. The people that are in debt are used for entertainment. The people that are impoverished, they're poor, they're used for the betterment of, watching people suffer by the rich people.
For
And
the
so,
entertainment, just
yeah.
for the rich. That's all they are. It's just
And humiliation, really.
yeah.
And so that kind of parallel to where at the party here in Parasite, they made Mr. Kim put on the headdress, the Native American headdress, and he was humiliated.
Right.
And Mr. Park said, "You're getting paid extra for this," as if like that is fine to humiliate someone like that. But Mr. Kim kind of took that like, okay, like he didn't really say much.
Yeah.
But it just kind of shows like money is a huge motivator, but also kind of persuasion tool used by the rich to make the people that don't have money just do humiliating stuff for entertainment.
I think that scene perfectly showcases as well, like the difference in class, between the both of them. The name of the movie is Parasite, and so this whole time you're thinking like, oh, this really poor family is just being, they're parasites off of this rich family, right? And they're sucking everything, money wise. But it plays both ways, because
I never thought about that.
Yeah, the parks, they're parasites for the poor. They're using poor people. They can't live without these poor people. They can't live without them.
That's true. That's
someone
very
has
true.
to cook their food, dry their clothes, teach their kids, drive them around. They're also parasites for vulnerable class of people.
Yeah.
And that scene really showcases it.
We live in a society. No. It's it really is. It's accepted that rich people can use poor people. Hey, as long as you're paying them or as long as you're giving them an avenue for power, it's fine. It's totally fine. It's accepted, sometimes even encouraged, and nobody bats an eye. But once the poor people start taking advantage of the rich people, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just accepted, that the lower class just have to like kind of fight for each little step in the world, but this very, very wealthy class, they're just allowed to do whatever they want, and as long as we as long as we get ours, as long as we get our money, then we're okay, but if anyone else tries to like do the same thing that we're doing, then no, it's just us, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really very important topic that is brought up throughout the movie, and it kind of makes you think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
one of the moments that stands out, another one, well, there's so many moments, but Kiwoo Kim, who's the English tutor, he asks the daughter, do I fit in during the party? And he needs that validation. He's striving to be part of that that's the only thing on his mind is he wants to be part of that party. He wants to be with the elite, with the rich, and he doesn't care about anything else. He will use this girl, and in his mind, he was probably thinking, if I can just marry her, get my way into this society, and that's really he's trying to kind of convince himself that he fits in and trying to get validation for that. It's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, that scene showcases who he is as a person and what's really like on his mind. When he asks her, "Do I fit in?" and the camera kind of cuts to her, and she's like, mm-hmm. like, yeah, sure,
Sure.
yeah, and you kind of see she doesn't really agree, but she's just something
Yeah.
he wants to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so another instance of that, symbiotic, relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, because she also needs validation that he likes her, that she's wanted. I think that if this movie was like a 3-part miniseries, I think I would have liked it better. Because I could be like, okay, like if they, you know how Quentin does like act 1, act 2, act 3. If they would have separated it like that, I probably would have liked it more. But just having to sit through so much for
Yeah.
me, it was difficult.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a just the way that he wants to tell his story. He
Yeah.
wants to tell it as this complete, piece of work that you really sit through and think about, and at the very end you're left, asking yourself these questions about, your society and your place in society.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with, splitting up a project or a piece of work in like, a few parts or whatever. There's this scene, I don't know if you remember it. It actually like made me laugh like out loud. It was really funny for me. It was like the best, the one of my favorites. But the comedy scene for me
Mhm.
was when the father, the driver of the Kim family, right, and he's talking to Mrs. Park, in the sauna about the housekeeper and how she has like tuberculosis and how she was
Yeah.
coughing, blood. And they come to like an agreement, like, oh, don't tell the husband because he's gonna have me hung and quartered for this, right? And they kind of agree, like, oh, okay, right. And
Yeah.
he goes to like reach out and like shake her hand, and she goes and like shakes his hand back, and they're like, yeah, okay, like this is the agreement, right? And she's like, oh, did you wash your hands? And he's kind of like, it's just kind of like thinking about it. Like,
He's kind of, yeah, he always has
no,
that face like,
yeah, knowing full well, he didn't wash his damn
I didn't.
hands. Like that
Yeah.
shit was so funny to me. You can't help but laugh.
I
Yeah,
like the bunker. Let's talk about the basement. Do you have any notes on the basement?
basement. Yes, the way that he uses again color to kind of showcase us. These people from such a low class, right? It's very harsh lighting, right? And he's not afraid to like really show us like these people are just very gritty, very raw, and it's such a difference, between like the Park family.
Yeah.
That's one thing that stood out for me is like the Parks are always very like bright pastels, like
Yeah.
have this
Everything's
very
accented modern.
beautiful facade,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And this lower class is just very very harsh
Yeah.
lighting, the music, the living conditions.
Well, even
Uh,
within that beautiful home, they have that secret bunker that they don't really know exists. The Park family, the rich family, doesn't know that they have this secret bunker. Um, and that's where the crazy guy's hiding out. I don't even know if we get a freaking name from that guy, but it's the old housekeeper's husband going mad down there. But it kind of also reflects the the fact that the Parks don't know about these poor people. They're oblivious to the fact that the struggles of these poor people,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
showcases that really well, even in their house.
right. This bunker kind of like amplifies, the divide between these two wealth classes. where
Yeah.
the poor, literally, they're living right underneath,
Yep.
this wealthy class. And
And
there's,
and the guy's worshiping Mr. Park, and Mr. Park at the party is like, "Who are you?" And so it's another symbolism of like these poor people. It's like, "Oh, I have the best CEO. He's awesome.
right,
He waved at me once." It's, something like at a corporate party. And like, "Hi, how are you?" It's like, who is this guy? They
yeah,
don't know who you are. You're nothing to them.
right, yeah, no, yeah, exactly. You see him down there like smashing his head against like the little light switch. It's like Mr. Park, respecto, and that shit. Yeah,
Respect.
yeah, yeah. At the very end too, you see
Yeah.
him saying that the symbolism in the film is just very strong, and it just showcases it very well.
But
And
that's another thing that when I was watching it, for me, I was like, there's so much that the director tries that I thought he tried too hard to convey. Like, yeah, we get it. Like, yes, there's separation. Yes, this and that. There's some things that I didn't catch, right? But on some other things, I'm like the whole movie is almost just symbolism on symbolism. Like that's all it is. And so it's not my cup of tea. I think he did a great job. It's just not my cup of tea.
yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, some people like watching a movie and just being entertained. Those of us with class, we don't mind thinking about it a little bit. No, but yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, I get it. It's everyone has their own taste. Obviously, some people just like a certain style of director. I really like the way that he tells a movie to us. Other movies like Quentin Tarantino or not
Yeah,
Martin Scorsese.
I
Martin
I
Scorsese.
love Quentin movies.
Yeah, I
There's
feel
something,
like
even though they're slow, they're
yeah,
very, very, very slow. They're very slow movies. I just love those movies.
yeah. But I mean, comparing this one to Alien, they're very two different bodies of work, right? One is
I mean, do you
showing
consider
us.
this a horror movie? Do you consider Parasite a horror movie?
No, I mean, I would
Yeah.
I would say probably like a dark
Thriller.
comedy, thriller, drama,
Okay.
something like
Yeah.
that. But Alien is also, like a thriller and kind of like a horror sci-fi.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I think these both movies that we watched are also do a very good job at conveying the story and making the audience kind of feel something.
Yeah.
You agree with it or not, or whether you like it or not. You can't deny like these two directors are very good at what they do.
For sure, 100%. I have the list of awards here for this movie. It was it won Best Motion Picture of the Year, 2019.
Yep.
So it became the first foreign language film to win Best Picture. That's pretty insane. Best Achievement winner. He won an Oscar in directing. He won an Oscar in Best Original Screenplay and another Oscar in Best International Feature Film. It was nominated for production design and film editing. But that's a lot of Oscars. That is one, two, three, four. Four Oscars. Is that correct? Jeez.
Just for Oscars, he won.
Yeah, he won a lot of other
I want to
things.
say
BAFTA,
right.
best screenplay at BAFTA. Yeah, best
Yeah.
film not in English language. AFI. I mean, they won tons of awards. So
Yeah.
clearly, the people loved this movie. The boards, the Academy, all these people, the critics loved the movie. I guess I don't agree with the critics, but hey, that's what we have, different styles
Yeah. That's what
and
you know
likes.
movies are for, and that's what shitty movie reviews are for, right?
That's why I'm unqualified.
Yeah, that's what
Moon Guang and Gyeong Sai, they threatened to expose the Kims. Let's talk about that. They, if do you have any notes on kind of like that power struggle between these two like lower class families? Once you know they take that, they go down in the basement, they take the video of all the Kims in one place. now Moon has, what do they call it, like a North Korean missile launch, that they
Right.
can send.
Yeah. Yeah. That dynamic, is really, really interesting because I just like the way that they play off of each other, and it really shows us again how like these people at the very bottom are fighting, for their little seat at the table, right? You see, this guy that's been stuck in the basement, and he takes, delight into knowing that these other people are suffering. This other family is suffering, and he has, this little send button. He's just fucking relishing in this moment, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But it kind of shows that also that the poverty at the poverty level, they have a chance to collaborate. They have a chance to be on the
right.
same team, but they're not. They are fighting against each other even more than rich people. And that it happens in our world too, where poor, like you can take poor, poverty, impoverished people and divide them even by, whatever, race, gender, anything, just to get them fighting. But the real battle is that poor versus rich that should be taking place. Whereas we see it here, the organization's not there in the poverty level. The threats are there, the fighting continues,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
bad.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that's why I appreciate, this movie so much is because it's so relevant. It's so relevant not only to, Korean society, but also to American society,
Yeah.
where, this exact thing is playing out, in our country, in our society right now. We have, people that are kind of working against each other, right? And working against their own interests,
Yep.
just to kind of get a leg up on their neighbor, and,
Mhm.
this wealthy class that's just kind of taking advantage of them and using them in a way that kind of, ultimately they don't, in the movie, they don't know that they're parasites, but, in real life, we know the wealthier parasites, right? So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh, okay, I'm gonna play that scene in the bunker because you were saying something that was funny, like one thing that I thought was funny, and it was definitely this scene right here. This scene made me laugh like a motherfucker.
야, 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 어쩐지 윤기사 갑자기 잘릴 때부터 이상하더라니. 야,
아주머니,
니네 뭐
우리 얘기 좀 해요.
일가족 사기단 뭐 이런 거냐? 저기 동생은 얼어 죽을 아가리 닥쳐 이 개쌍년아. 내가 찍은 거 이거.
That right
Right.
there
Yeah.
is my favorite scene. You filthy bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
After
Because,
like she was trying to get her to.
yeah, you see, like, yeah, don't call me sis, and the very next line she says, sis, my name is like,
Yep.
blah, 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 and then, yeah. Yeah, that scene was pretty funny too.
I think that's my favorite scene. Is like, don't call me you fuck bitch or something. Good gosh, like they can never be on the same team. And again, it's that division that is created.
Also, what the fuck is up with that weird ass guy in the basement? What's his name? Moon?
Moon is the girl. Moon is the wife. Yeah.
Okay. And so this guy is like, the way he's eating this fucking, he's drinking the milk. First of all, he's like drinking his fucking lechita, like, right? No. And then he's eating like the goddamn banana, like
He's like an animal.
Yeah, he's just
Dude, what the fuck, dude?
bro, don't tell me you didn't notice that.
No.
Like, what the fuck?
Okay.
Can we play the scene? Can we see that scene, Jamie?
Jamie, can you pull that scene up one more time?
Like, oh my god, yeah.
No, but you do notice that guy is, he's gone crazy, right?
Yeah,
But when
he's a
he
creep.
crawls up the stairs, he crawls on all fours.
He's like, yeah, like a fucking creature, right? He's
yeah,
screeching. Yeah.
and so, man, that I didn't notice that until the second time around. I thought he was just trying to get up really fast, but no, this guy is not human. Like, yeah, I think the director is trying to communicate that he is
He lost a little bit of
past.
his humanity down there in the basement.
Yeah, exactly. And so also it does highlight that, hey, if you're down there in poverty, impoverished levels with, no way to get out, you're going to lose your mind. You're going to slowly lose that humanity side of yourself. It's such a good communication through that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you said it very well. Also, another thing I wanted to talk about really quick was my favorite scene. I want to say, obviously, the funniest scene for me was the handshake, and he's just like, But my favorite scene has got to be whenever he is going to like the trash can to check on the napkin, like the pizza hot sauce packet, like onto the napkin, and it's just kind of like the little cherry on top. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and then he holds it up and he's just like,
the acting.
Right.
Well, they were rehearsing their acting lines, right? They were rehearsing right before that.
So well planned, right? And,
yeah.
And so he's like reacting, rehearsing these lines, and the way he reacts when he holds up that napkin is just like, like I knew it, right? Yeah. I knew it. I fucking told you.
So dramatic. My favorite scene is with Mr. Kim as well, because he has the most iconic scene in that when the crazy lunatic who starts stabbing everybody at the party, when he comes out, he gets stabbed and put on the ground. Well, Mr. Kim has the keys to the Mercedes, which is Mr. Park's Mercedes. And Mr. Park is communicating, I need the keys, toss the keys. And Mr. Kim throws the keys, but the crazy lunatic lands on him. And now Mr. Park has to kind of move him out of the way to get the keys. But it's not the fact that like he reacts at the scene, but he really reacts with his nose. That was like amazing to me. The blood didn't bother him. The stabbing didn't bother him on the guy. It was the smell that bothered him the most. And when Mr. Kim saw that, his eyes just like opened like, no, F this guy. He's got to die. Because he hates me too.
Yeah. That flip really like switched, and you just see like, we're really nothing to him, and everything that the movie has been building towards, was this moment where he just kind of like, he loses it, right?
Yeah.
Because throughout the movie, you've been hearing about how he smells, and he's like, do I really smell like that?
Yeah, like a boiled wet rag. That's what the description was.
I can imagine that, like, just being told that by someone that's wealthy, like, you smell like a boiled wet rag.
Yeah, that's like an ultimate.
God.
You'd be like,
right,
motherfucker.
So I don't blame him. I would have stabbed him too.
Really? God damn, dude.
Yeah,
I would just punched him or something. But God,
I
to go and kill the guy for
full O.J. Simpson during that interview where he's like,
Jesus Louises.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That would have been me. But what'd you think about the ending though?
Man, so the ending, I legit, like the first time I watched it, I legit thought that they had gotten that the son got money and he bought the house and the dad came out. And I didn't pay attention to that final scene until this time around that I watched it, that all that was kind of a narration of him, but the final scene proves that the son hasn't done any of that. He's daydreaming or something. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
But do we even know that the dad is in the basement? Because again, that narration, you can't really trust the narration, right?
Yeah. It brings in like that element of, that you really can't trust, this narrator, this son. He's kind of telling, the story. You don't really know what's true or what's not. But, I really like that part, because I think, he's kind of showcasing, he's kind of telling us what is going to happen, and in his eyes, this is going to happen. But obviously, it's just a daydream, right? And so, you don't know.
But what I just thought about right now is that leading up to that scene, through the sentencing and then visiting his sister's ashes, he's laughing like almost maniacally, like kind of like, dude, there's a screw loose in there, and
Yeah, rock to the brain will do that to you.
yeah, right. And so you're just kind of like, this guy, like maybe schizo, or he thinks he made up the situation where his dad is in the basement. I don't know.
No, that's not schizo. That's not schizo. I mean, the son, the young son, Park, Dasong is schizo, for drawing, his initials in the bottom of the painting. I don't know if you caught on to that.
Yeah. They
but,
highlighted that.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, by the way, on Google, and it's not a thing.
So, it's not, right? Yeah, because every artist, draws their fucking initials in the bottom right.
Yeah.
But it's just another, example of how this wealthy family is so naive. How this mother is just so naive, and she will take anything for face value.
Yeah.
Another scene I really liked as well was the scene where they're eating pizza in this restaurant, kind of talking about their plan.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the same restaurant that they're folding the pizza boxes for.
Oh, really?
And so whenever that lady drops off the pizza, she's like bringing the pizza, and she just literally drops it on their table, and they're just like, whatever, we got ours. Like, you're still making pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not pick up on that at all. Because that was during their planning, right? That was
when they were planning this whole tuberculosis scene. Yeah.
Wow.
See, it just keeps
building,
keeps unraveling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this movie is easily 10 out of 10 for me. One of my favorite movies, top 5, and not number 5. But for you, what I really want to hear what you think.
And my score is 6.2. I'm going to give it a 6.2.
What?
Yeah.
Wait,
I would.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
6?
6.2.
Okay.
That's my score. So you heard it here first, folks. This is a movie that I will never watch again. I literally, if it wasn't for this review, I wouldn't have not watched it again. But I'm glad I watched it to give it another chance. I will not do it again. I won't watch it again.
Wait, you got to watch the black and white version, though. It's so good.
Shut
I swear
up.
to God.
Is there really a black and white version?
Yes, there's a black and white version. So good.
Bullshit.
Watch it.
See, this is what I hate about these aficionado critics. Like, no, what are they, like? Movie, I don't even know. Like elite snobs, cinema snobs.
Right.
I can't.
Yeah, when you really watch the black and white, you really get a feel for the sense and what the director really wants to tell us. Like, yeah, shut the fuck up. I like the movie.
Shut up.
Yeah.
6-2. One bite, everybody knows the rules. That's what I give it. That's my score.
Yeah, that's fair.
Make sure, guys, is that everything? Is that all you got? That's all I got.
Hey, that's all I got.
All right. Folks, thank you for joining us in another review of Unqualified Movie Reviews. We're sporting Stranger Things right here and Godzilla.
I'm wearing a Godzilla shirt.
Fantastic.
This is the only, kind of...
Don't say it. Don't say it. Parasite.
Yeah, parasitic shirt that I got. So...
All right. Make sure to check out the Dapper D-Gens on YouTube. I will link it below in our description. And until next time, leave a comment for the next movie. Bye, guys.